cat. So still I kept my food in that refrigerator. What can be done? They had been talking for over an hour and Prabhupada had given definitive instructions, but it was not over yet. It was clear, however, who was in control. Later that morning, 350 devotees approached the precincts of Mayapur in a caravan of buses from the Calcutta airport. For most of the arriving devotees, this would be their first visit to Mayapur, and their excitement countered the fatigue of the long journey from the west. Free of worldly concerns, they had come to India to visit Sridham Mayapur and to see Srila Prabhupada again. After 3 hours on the road, the buses had entered Mayapur, and soon the devotees were seeing the Gaudiya Math temples, the Sri Vasanga, the Samadhi of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and the birthsite of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all appearing one after the other as the buses' horns blaring almost incessantly hurried around the winding turns of Bhaktisiddhanta Road. Villagers on foot and in rickshaws, buffalo, goats, and cows moved hurriedly aside. Local residents looked up with curiosity and surprise at the sight of hundreds of Western Bhaktas arriving to celebrate Gaurapanim. Then the arriving devotees saw on the flat Mayapur landscape the pinkish hue and beautiful features of ISKCON's Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir, the place Srila Prabhupada had prepared for them, the home of which they had heard so much. As the buses arrived at the gate of the ISKCON property, the devotees cheered to see the new domes and fields of flowers, and their eagerness to see Srila Prabhupada increased. There would be formalities of registering and receiving a room, a few complications in locating and settling in, but nothing major. They were home now, among fellow devotees. Soon they would be able to bathe in the Ganges and to hear the schedule for parigram to the holy places. Some devotees rested while others met with friends from various places in the world. They shared the latest news and received experienced advice about the Ganges swift current and about avoiding dysentery and mosquitoes. By early evening, they'd all moved into their rooms and taken prasadam. The Sanai musicians in a small room above the entrance gate began playing an evening rag. The sky darkened, and devotees began gathering in the brightly lit temple room for Abhijnana Kirtan. These devotees had been working very hard in various cities throughout the world, and coming to Mayapur was like a reward for their austerities and patient service. Now they could relax and enjoy spiritual life with no responsibilities other than to worship the deities, to sing and hear Srila Prabhupada, to chant Hare Krishna, and to simply be Krishna conscious in the eternal abode of Lord Chaitanya. When Prabhupada heard that now almost 600 devotees were gathered in his Mayapur place of worship, he was very pleased. He inquired whether the prasadam and accommodations were sufficient, and whether there would be a full schedule of engagements for everyone. Otherwise, Otherwise, he said, if the devotees remained idle, they would get sick or would gossip. He said everyone should simply chant Hare Krishna, go on parigram, and engage in Krishna Katha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sridham Mayapur ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 We're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the chapter entitled Maharaj Rahugana Meets Jad Bharat, which is chapter 10, and its text
number 9.
Oh, we can actually do this one,
eh? Yeah.
Brahmana Uvacha Brahmana Uvacha Tvayoditam Vyaktam
Avipralabdam
Tvayoditam Vyaktam
Avipralabdam
Bhatu sa me shad yadi vira bara Bhatu sa me shad yadi vira bara
Bhatu samisyad yadi virabara
Ganto yadi shad Adigamyam Adva Ganto yadi shad adigamyam adva.
Pancho yadi syadigamyam adva.
Piviti raso na vidam pravada. Piveti raso na vidam pravada. Brahmana uvacha Vayoditam yaktam avipralabdam Bhatu sameshan yadivirabhara Ganto yadishad adigamyam adva Viveti raso navidam pravada Brahmana uvacha Ayoditam yaktam avipralabdam Bhatu sameshan yadivirabhara Ganto yadishad adigamyam adva Viveti raso navidam pravada Brahmana uvacha
Ayoditam yaktam avipralabdam
Ayoditam yaktam avipralabdam
Bhatu samesya yadivirabhara
Bhatu samesya yadivirabhara
Ganto yadisya tatigamyam adva
Ganto yadisya adigamyam adva
Viveti raso navidam pravada
Viveti raso navidam pravada
Brahmana uvacha
Brahmana uvacha
Tvayoditam yaktam avipralabdam
Ayoditam yaktam avipralabdam
Bhartu samisyad yadivirabhara
Bhatu samesya yadivirabhara
Gantur yadisyad adigamyam adva
Ganto yadisya adigamyam adva
Viveti rasho navidam pravada
Viveti raso navidam pravada Mataji's
Brahmana uvacha
Brahmana uvacha
Vayoditam yaktam
Vayoditam yaktam avipralabdam
Bhatu samesya yadivirabhara
Bhatu samesya yadivirabhara
Ganto yadisya tatigamyam adva Viveti raso navidam pravada
Brahmana uvacha Ayoditam yaktam avipralabdam Bhartu samesya yadivirabhara Ganto yadisya adigamyam adva Viveti raso navidam pravada Brahmana uvacha
Brahmana uvacha
The learned Brahman Jadbharat
Brahmana Jadbharat
spoke Tvaya
by you
Uditam explained Yaktam
very clearly
Avipralabdam without contradictions Bhatu of the bearer the body Saha that may mine Shat it would have been Yadi if Vira oh great hero Maharaj Rahugan Bara allowed Gantu of the mover also the body Yadi if Shat it had been Adigamyam the object to be obtained Adva the path Piva,
Piva,
very stout and strong.
very stout and strong.
Iti,
Iti,
thus.
thus.
Raso,
Raso,
in the body.
in the body.
Na,
Na,
not.
not.
Vidam,
Vidam,
of the self-realized persons.
of the self-realized persons.
Pravada,
Pravada,
subject matter for discussion.
subject matter for discussion.
Translation: The great Brahmin Jad Bharat said, "My dear king and hero, wherever you have spoken sarcastically is certainly true. Actually, these are simply words of chastisement. For the body is the carrier. The load carried by the body does not belong to me. For I am the spirit soul. There is no contradictions in your statements, because I am different from the body. I am not the carrier of the palanquin. The body is the carrier. Certainly, as you have hinted, I have not laboured carrying the palanquin, for I am detached from the body. You have said that I am not stout and strong. And these words are befitting a person who does not know the distinction between the body and the soul. The body may be fat or thin, but no learned man would say such things of the spirit soul. As far as the spirit soul is concerned, I am neither fat nor skinny. Therefore, you are correct, whether you say that I am not very stout. Also, if the object of this journey and the path leading there were mine, there would be many troubles for me. But because they relate not to me, but to my body, there is no trouble at all." In Bhagavad Gita it is stated that one who is advanced in spiritual knowledge is not disturbed by the pains and pleasures of the material body. The material body is completely separate from the spirit soul, and the pains and pleasures of the body are superfluous. The practice of austerity and penance is meant for understanding the distinction between the body and the soul, and how the soul can be unaffected by the pleasures and pains of the body. Jad Bharat was actually situated on the path of self-realization. He was completely aloof from the bodily conception. Therefore, he immediately took this position and convinced the king that whatever contradictory things the king had said about his body did not actually apply to him as a spirit soul. Chakshuran Militam Jena Tasmat Shri Gurave Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama. So this is the point where the king realizes that Jad Bharat has been pretending to be a dumb person, and now he's speaking very eloquently, and so the king is very surprised by this, and also the king realizes that he's been offensive, and this is a great soul, and he's very remorseful, and he's offering all respects and apologies to Jad Bharat. So you could say this was a turning point in the relationship between the king and Jad Bharat. So so then the relationship changes. The king offers respect. I mean, that was the Vedic culture, wasn't it? The Vedic culture was the Kshatriyas were trained and educated to understand that if somebody was a Brahmin, that his direction should be followed. It would be in their own interests to follow the advice of the Brahmins when somebody displayed. So externally, it may have been difficult for people to understand, especially when Jad Bharat was pretending to be anything but a Brahmin. And then suddenly there's this transformation takes place, and he reveals himself for what he really is. So, so that's interesting. But the Vedic culture was the Kshatriyas would go to the Brahmins for advice. I'm thinking of having a battle next week. What do you think? And then the Brahmins would look at the astrological and say, "Oh no, not going to be good, king. Best keep a low profile for the next couple of months at least." And so they would follow the advice of the Brahmins, and then everything worked nicely. Because the Brahmins weren't able to be corrupted also, which is interesting in the Mahabharata, because we saw the some very elevated personalities had become corrupted because they were eating the food that had been prepared by people who were antagonistic towards Krishna. That's what Bhishma was saying. There was a certain point where Bhishma said that he was on the bed of arrows actually. He was saying, I found myself in this predicament because I've been eating the food of those who were offensive toward Krishna. But the system is there. The system can be corrupted, it can be covered over, it can become degraded, but it is always there. And it's just a question of reviving and establishing again the relationships, how things should function nicely in society. And we're also challenged by that in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness as well, is how do we take on our particular roles. In one sense, we do everything. We do the work of Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. We're ready to roll up our sleeves and do whatever is needed, do the needful. But still, we elect somebody as a leader, and we go to somebody for advice, and somebody who's good at working out the business side of things and generating funds, and some are just very good at doing really hard work and just getting in, so people fall into the natural propensities that they have. And because everything is done for Krishna, then nobody feels any lesser than anybody else, whether he's washing the pots or he's buying a big building or giving a talk to a big assembly of people. Everyone is equal in Krishna's eyes. In the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, we're all assisting each other. So we all share each other's victories. It's not that when someone is successful, everyone else fails in ISKCON. If someone's successful in ISKCON, everyone's successful in ISKCON. If we hear of that devotee who gets 1 million likes on YouTube, we think, great, that's 1 million people that have found out a little bit more about Krishna consciousness. So that's fine, everyone's okay with that. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that one who is advanced in spiritual knowledge is not disturbed by the pains and pleasures of the material body. So there is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? It's in the 6th chapter, that having attained this, he thinks there is no greater gain. When he becomes free from identifying with the body, then he's relieved of all the pains and pleasures. So that's the price you pay. If you want the pleasures of the body, if you're attached to the pleasures of the body, okay, but then that also means you have to pay the price, which is the pains of the body. But if you're detached from the pleasures of the body, then the benefit is that then you don't have to suffer the pains of the body as well. They're superfluous. Superfluous is like superficial. The practice of austerity and penance is meant for understanding the distinction. So sometimes people may think, well, why don't you just enjoy yourself while you're here, make the most of it? But if you practice austerity and penance, then the benefit is you can become free, you can be relieved of identity. It's like the body is like a chariot going down a hill, and it's going down the hill, and as it's going down the hill, it's getting faster and faster. And people are on the chariot and saying, well, this is a great ride. And they're looking at you, and you're like, you're holding the sides, and you're practicing special exercises to make your legs nice and strong, and developing these muscles, and reading books on how to jump out of carts as they're going down a hill at 50 miles an hour, and you're getting ready, and they're just enjoying the ride. So as you're going down on the cart, at a certain point you can just spring off, and then the car will go crashing to the bottom, but you'll land on a little ledge somewhere, quite safe and undisturbed. So if you don't want to do that, if you just want to enjoy the ride, then the ride will crash. It will all come tumbling down. As they say, it all ends in tears. So that's the material world. Everything ends in tears because everything gets finished in due course of time. So the austerity and penance is meant for understanding the distinction between the body and the soul, and then obviously to become unaffected become detached. And it's referred to that the detachment is like it's like the coconut. You have a coconut, you leave it long enough. It's okay. It's okay. You can. It's called Gora Gora. When you reach a certain age, there's Gora Gora. That's when you know death is coming. You can't clear it, and that's just let you know Gora Gora is coming. So if you shake the coconut, after a while, the flesh, you can hear it rattling about. So a self-realized person is in the body, but he's disconnected. He's the flesh inside the coconut, but he's not connected anymore to the shell. He's rattling around inside. He's just using the body as he needs to use it. So every day we continue on our devotional service and keep practicing. We're a day closer to come to that point of becoming detached from the body. Is to become detached from what it looks like, the physical. You find yourself looking in the mirror, and you maybe don't look still. Sometimes you're trying to take a selfie, and then you look at it and you think, no, that's not me. And you take another one, oh no, that's not me. And sometimes you just can't get the selfie, because it's just not the way you want it to look. It's just not looking like you at all. So you become detached first of all from the gross. And that's why old age is really good, because old age is a special blessing Krishna gives us, so that it becomes more and more pertinent that we become detached from being the body, as the body becomes more and more of a dilapidated hot water bottle full of wrinkles and sags, and there's more of an impetus there to become disconnected. When the body's looking very beautiful and the skin is tight and things aren't hanging, and then it's easier. It's more appealing to identify with. And then the other identification is with the subtle. And the subtle is a bit more tricky, because that's your opinions and conceptions of things. And as you become more free of the false ego, then you don't feel you need to defend. It's like a knee-jerk reaction, isn't it? When someone says, hey, why didn't you do that? Immediately there's a defense. Well, it's just you don't even think, you just defend, It doesn't matter whether you're right or if you're in the wrong, you just need to defend yourself now. So as we become free from the false ego, then as a humble servant, we don't have anything to defend. We're just, oh, okay, well, so what do you want me to do? How should I do it better? It's fine, There's no conflict anymore. There's no struggle to defend anything. We're quite happy to just comply and be malleable with the situation, whatever it is, whatever Krishna sends our way. Okay, here's some service coming in this way. Okay, fine. There's another opportunity to do some service. So let me do it, you see. So then we're starting to become freed. They say actually a symptom of one who is free of false ego is that they're able to very easily change to mitigating circumstances. So the plan's going to be this, and then suddenly the plan changes, and okay, so we're doing this now? What's the program now? If you can just fall in with whatever it is that's happening, no matter how many times it changes, then that's a sign that you're becoming free from your false ego. Because your false ego wants to be in control, you see. You have these ideas of the way things should be. That's the whole part and parcel of the false ego. My idea of how things should be. So we have our plan, and then there's also Krishna's plan. So it's better to find out, I wonder what Krishna's plan is for me. I wonder what Krishna, what does Krishna see the next step in my life as being? So we can find out what that is, then we can take it. Any questions or comments? So Jabara was actually situated on the platform of self-realization. He was completely aloof from the bodily conception, and therefore he immediately took this position and convinced the king that whatever contradictory things the king had said about his body did not actually apply to him as a spirit soul. So interestingly, he was able to immediately convince the king by the way he was speaking. He was speaking with such, he was on such a level of, I mean, I suppose the king must have realized, wow, he's just been, he's so detached, he's been going along, just allowing people to treat him like this. And at the same time all this was going on, so that would carry a lot of weight, wouldn't it? You'd think, wow, I really want to listen to what this person's got to say.
Another powerful thing that is quite convincing, because when you kind of attacked, when he was attacked, he smiled back and it wasn't like he got hurt.
By the Kali worshippers?
No, in this specific circumstance.
Oh yeah, by the king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The king just had really had it, but he wasn't disturbed.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you don't retaliate to the insults and provocations of others and try and see, okay, this person actually needs some enlightenment. He needs some perspective on life, so he could see that. Because that's the same for everyone. What is really important actually with enlightening our fellow human beings is having a sense of timing, knowing exactly when would be a good time to introduce some information about the absolute truth, and when it would not be a good time to do the same thing. Sometimes it can be correct but inappropriate, and sometimes, unfortunately, it seems appropriate but it's incorrect.
I have a question about tolerance. There's a story in the Vedas about a Brahmin watching a Kshatriya tolerate pain. It's like where the insect bores a hole through the Kshatriya's leg.
Oh, really?
And the Kshatriya is pretending to be a Brahmin. And then he realizes because the Kshatriya can tolerate that pain because the person can tolerate the pain without flinching at all, then he realizes this person he's not a Brahmin, he's a Kshatriya.
Like with Karna and Parashurama.
Yeah. So it seems that Kshatriyas, it seems one of the qualities of Kshatriya is heroism. It's described that they relish getting a good beating from the enemy.
Yeah.
They actually gain determination from pain, from austerity. Whereas Brahmins may not have that kind of tolerance, but they're more capable of tolerating the subtle. They're more capable of tolerating the force of the false ego. So I was thinking in terms of that. So in terms of tolerating happiness and distress without being disturbed, and that when we experience something which we can't tolerate on the physical level, then how do we remain undisturbed? How do we sort of prevent that physical disturbance from disturbing our whole kind of life or agenda?
Yeah, that's a nice question. So, because you could say, well, it seems that the Kshatriya is better situated for tolerating than the Brahmin, because the Kshatriya can tolerate intense pain, and but the Brahmin is supposed to be tolerant, and so is he tolerant in a different way, in the sense that he's more tolerant of the desire for glory and position and controllership. He's able to tolerate that by being humble, like that. So I suppose as you go down the scale, because you would think, okay, well, Brahman is at the top, he must be the most tolerant. Kshatriya is less tolerant. Vaishya is less tolerant and the Shudra practically can't tolerate anything. It would seem like that. And then you could say, well, maybe on a subtle level, the Brahmin is more tolerant, and on a subtle level, the Kshatriya is less tolerant. So in the Kshatriya, there's a certain bodily construction. The body is more powerful, more able to take punishment than the Brahmin. The Brahmin's body is more kind of frail, and the Kshatriya has a more powerful body. And we see with Bhishma Dev, he was able to tolerate unbelievable. See, it's interesting with Bhishma Dev because we could all have the benediction that you only die when you want to die. We could all have that, but most of us would be quite happy to pop off as soon as we got 2 splinters in the top of our toe. Oh, that's it, okay, I'm off. Yeah, as quick as we could, you know. Bhishma was lying like a pincushion, full of them, you know, and he's just hanging on, prepared to tolerate and override. Of course, Bhishma then goes into another category, which is actually a Mahatma, which is like Srila Prabhupada is into this whole other realm, which is no longer dictated by the limitations of being a Kshatriya or whatever else, you know. So that's interesting. And of course, there must be overlapping as well. That somebody could be Brahminical. You could have been a Kshatriya and he's become a Brahmin. You could have been a Brahmin and he's become a Kshatriya. You see that type of thing going on as well. So it's quite fluid how it happens and what the combination is. And for yourself, it's self-realization. So for yourself, there's a certain amount of pain that you can tolerate, and then there's a certain amount of pain that you can't, and it becomes detrimental. Like for me, I have to sleep. There's a certain point now. I just can't function. I just have to go and lie down. I'm going to have to have a nap, and that's it. And then I'm going to get up, and then I can do my service. So I have to do what's favourable. And reject what's unfavourable. Because for me, it would be unfavourable to push myself to the point of having such a disturbance in the body then I couldn't sleep, and then that would then have a knock-on effect of not being able to do the service maybe for the next few days actually. So you get to a point where it becomes like a juggling act, that I want to continue on doing my service, and therefore I have to factor in these particular considerations, you know. So it should be that after we've been practicing Krishna consciousness for some years, that we start becoming aware of what we can and what we cannot do, and at the same time we're always trying to improve and make progress. But it's interesting that at the same time as we're trying to improve and make progress, the very vehicle that we're in is starting to break down. So you can't do with the vehicle now what you could have done with the vehicle 20 years ago. Although you may be more advanced now spiritually, but physically you're more compromised. So that's an interesting combination of factors to take into account. So yeah, one of the qualities of a Brahmin is that his main quality is considered forgiveness. That a person who's truly on the Brahminical platform is able to be very big-hearted, Mahatma. He's able to be very forgiving. He doesn't hold grudges, he doesn't resent, he just accepts things as they are. He still shows the person love and compassion, even if the person's been very insulting or even injurious to him. That's the nature. Kshatriya is a little different, their mentality. Main quality of a Kshatriya is courage, isn't it? Courage in battle. And then of course we have our spiritual master's example. We look at our spiritual master and we see how he behaves, how he conducts himself and performs his devotional service, and we follow in the footsteps of the great Maharaja. Srila Prabhupada set an ideal example of how to live and how to die also. So it's an interesting question. The Kshatriya, it's very difficult for the Kshatriya to tolerate anger, whereas the Brahmin can forgive. He can just he can just leave it aside and not get angry with somebody. And there's the sadhu who kept picking up the scorpion that was stinging him all the time. And every time he picked it up, the scorpion was in a little puddle of water because it had been raining and it was drowning. So, as a kind-hearted sadhu, he wanted to save its life. But every time he picked up the scorpion stung him, and he would drop it again. But he'd drop it back in the puddle. So he thought, okay, I better try that again. And it's stinging, he'd drop it back in the puddle. And then the third time he actually just flicked it out. And somebody just says, well, why did you do that? He just keeps stinging you. And he said, well, that's its nature. And man is to be kind, so why should I give up my nature if it won't give up its nature? So that's what we're supposed to be trying to be. We're trying to be kind and forgiving. Of course, we're trying to develop the qualities really of a Vaishnava, not just of a Brahmin. But it precedes the Vaishnava is, first of all, he has his Brahminical qualities, and then he goes into his Vaishnava, becomes a Vaishnava.
You can see that in the Bhagavatam, there's different examples where Kshatriya has become angry and been insulted like Dhruva Maharaj, and it's very difficult for him to, and also Arjuna, the different Kshatriyas, they show that this is the nature of a Kshatriya, that they can't tolerate insult and they get angry. So, but at the same time, they're great Vaishnavas.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting with Dhruva Maharaj is there was a transition, wasn't there? There was a certain point. His anger led him to perform the penances and the austerities. And then the penances and the austerities freed him from his anger. So that by the time he saw the Lord, he saw all his anger was just like pieces of glass. It was all useless, worthless, being angry like that and having these desires. And then he was willing to. And then Krishna says, no, I want you to have this. But by that time he'd lost the desire to want to have it. So that's also interesting that if you want something and you decide to, and you become detached from it, you've got more chance of Krishna giving you it. Because then Krishna thinks, okay, well now he's not going to get affected by it. So if you really want something, and become detached from it, you've got a chance of getting it. More of a chance of getting it. At least that's what happened with Dhruva Maharaj.
So, Khat is saying a comment.
Khat?
Yes.
Ekaterina.
I like the point about getting determination from austerity. I think austerity is such a great tool to help us practice tolerance and grow spiritually.
Yeah. Yeah, nice comment, yeah. It's interesting in Austerities of the Mind, explained in Bhagavad Gita, that the first austerity of the mind is satisfaction. To be happy. And that's an austerity, to be happy. For some people, that is a very austere thing. To just try and be happy and look on the bright side. Although it would seem, well, how can that be austere? You're going to give yourself a break. You're going to cheer up. You're going to start laughing, and you're going to be dancing around and singing. How is that an austerity? But that's how we get tricked. We actually get cheated by the material energy. No, don't stop being happy. What are you talking about? Happy? You're kidding? We can't be happy. Not until this happens. Not until we see that person suffer like this, and then we can be. No. We're not going to be happy. Just hold on there a minute. Just hold back. Never mind all this happiness stuff. We'll be happy when we win the lottery. Then we'll be happy. Wait until then. So people end up waiting for things, prevailing circumstances to change, and then now I can be happy. Okay, I'll be happy. So that means you had the choice all along when you wanted to do that. So it's an austerity to just decide, I'm going to be happy, I'm going to be satisfied with what I've got. And that takes determination. You have to be determined to push through the membrane of mental justification for being miserable and discouraged. You have to push through, and you have to. It's like, if you're pushing against a membrane and it's quite elasticy, and you're pushing and it's like, you're not getting very far here. You need something sharp to cut through that membrane, to cut through, and that's what the austerities are. Austerities are giving you the keen intellect. Because when you say, I couldn't determine what to do, so when you can't determine what to do, what that means is you haven't got the determination to follow through with a particular plan of action that would be conducive toward you achieving your goals. That's really what it means. So if you're very determined and you have keen knowledge, then that's like having a sword that's very sharp. Then when you poke the membrane, you'll go clean through it. You can cut right through it, and it'll all just, and you'll go into this happy zone where you're content and satisfied. But you can't get that with antidepressants. You can't get that with pretending things are okay. It's something which requires austerity and character, strength of character, determination, continued effort, sustained effort over a period of time, and then you'll eventually push through,
It's interesting that when it came to four regulative principles, one of the main advice that Prabhupada would give, actually by doing it, you will get determination.
Yeah.
If you will restrain your senses and control them.
Yeah.
Or if you allow yourself to make loose, you're going to lose the determination.
Yeah.
Determination will come and strength by actually doing it. And
It's a bit like, if a guy's going to run for the pole vault, and just before he's going to run for the pole vault, someone says to him, do you want to just sign this? It's just saying that you're definitely going to do this. And the guy says, well, I'm not sure. I'm not saying I'm going to definitely do it. I'm not sure I am going to do it. I mean, it's very high up there, And I mean, look at it. It's like 20 feet up. I'm not sure. So the guy says, well, you're going to try. Why don't you just say, look, I'm definitely going to do it? It's like, no, I'm not committing. I'll take it. So he runs up. And as he runs up, he thinks, I think I'll just run underneath it, actually. So he just throws the bamboo thing to the side and just runs through. Or he said, yeah, I'll sign it, okay. I'm going to try anyway, so I said, yeah, okay, I'm definitely going to. And then he runs up and he thinks, okay, I've really committed, I'm going to have to give it everything here, Then he's got a chance of getting over. So, beliefs are like carrying little voices around with you. And if the beliefs are that you're not going to do it, no, you're not going to do it, you're not going to do it, you're not going to do it, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen, then it's not going to work. So you have to, before you go running to do it, you have to look at what your beliefs are. Do you believe you can do it? Why don't you believe you can do it? Srila Prabhupada is saying you can do it. Lord Chaitanya is saying you can do it. Lord Nityananda is saying you can do it. You don't think you can do it? So you have to kick out the beliefs that are against you, and you have to bring in the beliefs. That's why Mahaprabhu was saying, everyone write down 5 reasons why they think japa is important. So you write down your 5 reasons, and then he says, now for each reason, write down 5 reasons why that reason is important. So you end up with 30 reasons why japa is important. So if you've got 30 beliefs why japa is important, you've got much more chance of doing good japa. But if you put your hand in your bead bag and I can't do that, so it doesn't work anyway. It gave me a headache last week. I was shooting for an hour, banging headache, banging headache, banging headache. You've got those beliefs, and when you chant, you have to, you put the bead bag on. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says it, my bead bag is full of infinite prospect. Put that bead bag on. You could be in Goloka Vrindavan in 2 minutes. Anything could happen. You could see who you are, see Krishna, everything could just open up. you have to believe, you have to at least have that belief of how powerful and how magical Krishna consciousness is. And you have to kick out all these useless beliefs which are no good, self-sabotaging.
In that regard, I was just thinking that the amount of time that we invest in thinking about why we're doing something like those 30 reasons, then that's obviously going to increase our focus when we're performing the activity. So, because chanting Hare Krishna Japa is, if you do it correctly, it's quite a simple process, and we can all kind of come together and strengthen each other's commitments. But when running ISKCON is like running the worldwide International Society for Krishna Consciousness, like it's got a variety of different challenges. So, and at the same time in our daily life, where you could say that we're spending more time investing in the future of ISKCON than we are investing in our japa in terms of the time that we spend doing it anyway. So how can we gain that kind of very focused determination that we're trying to achieve through like reading affirmations? How can we gain that kind of focused perception of why it's important to us?
Yeah, it's interesting because every time I go to Mayapur, it reminds me of what the program is, because we all know what the program is most of the time, right? You get up at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, you do a bit of reading, you come to Mangalarti, put your dhoti on, you put your tilak on, you have a shower, you do the greeting, you have the class, then you do your japa, you follow the, so that's the program. But every time I go to Mayapur, I realize, this is part of the program. This is actually part of the program, and as it's referring there in the Prabhupada Lamrita, the devotees were experiencing so much bliss because of the austerities they've been performing in the West. So sometimes you don't, you maybe feel like it's going unnoticed, or it's not being appreciated. But every time I've been to Mayapur especially, you really feel like, wow, okay, it was all worthwhile. It was every single Garanga sticker I put up on every back of every till was acknowledged and appreciated, and then you feel really enthused. So you put yourself in that type of a zone, that environment for 3 weeks, 1 month, every few years at least, and it gives such an amazing validation of everything. That Lord Chaitanya is God, that Srila Prabhupada did tell us everything is, Hare Krishna is it, everything is spot on, great, and then you come back and you back away again, and then when you start getting frayed around the edges, then you go back into the Holy Dham, Srimad Mayapur, and Vrindavan Dham, and again you get rejuvenated, put back together, then you come back again. I remember I was in Kusum Sarovar, we just done Govardhan Parikram, and it was advised that after you've done Parikram, go and bathe in Kusum Sarovar. So we were bathing in Kusum Sarovar, and I remember I was doing the backstroke. I was looking at this beautiful blue sky with these white clouds, and I was saying to the mind, come on, what was it again? What was the problem? I was trying to find what the problem, all the different problems that I struggle so much with in the West, and not only had the problems gone, but I couldn't even remember what they were. I was trying to think, what was it? Sankirtan? That's not really a problem, is it? 4 principles? That's what we're supposed to do, isn't it? Chanting? Yeah. Welly's got a hole in? Okay. So I was thinking, okay, remember this when you get back. Don't forget this. That this isn't really. There's no real problem actually. You're the spirit soul, you're pure, you're complete, and you're perfect. You're part and parcel of Krishna. You're eternal. This is the real. This is the reality. So don't forget that when you go back. That's the only problem, we forget yourself. I will finish with that. Yes, Guru in the King.
Jai.
Should have had King.
Jai.
Go Premanandi.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
His Grace Adhoksaja Krishna Prabhu ki.
Jai.
Jai.
Go